Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you, and together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. My name is Emilee. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. This is Emilee, your host, and I am so excited to talk to you about today's topic. It is going to be so much fun. I have a lot to say. Before I dive into the content, I just wanted to say I have been a little sick lately, and I actually lost my voice a couple days ago. It is just now coming back. So if you notice that my voice is a little raspy, it's a little lower than normal, I apologize. That's because I've been sick and my voice only just came back to me. And hopefully it doesn't disappear on me as I'm recording today. But I really wanted to record this episode because I've had just this powerful download of information come through me that I really feel like I need to share with you. You need to hear this. It's so magical and important. And so even though my voice sounds not so great, we're going to move forward with it anyway. And hopefully you can bear through my raspiness. And I don't know, maybe you like this better. We'll see. But anyway, I just wanted to make that little note before we dive into today's topic. And one more little note before we get into the content. I wanted to share with you that I have just started a brand spanking new Instagram account, like brand new baby little account, so that I can connect with you some more about the topics we're talking about here on the podcast. I would love it if you gave me a follow over there, if you connected with me over there. I'd love to chat with you. The account is at Suddenly Spiritual, and I'll be sharing information about the topics we're talking about here in the podcast. Next month in September, I'm going to start doing weekly lives with some little live mini workshops. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I plan on sharing quite a bit over there since I have this little tiny baby account and I would just really want to see it grow. So if you want to dive deeper into the topics we talk about here on the podcast, go ahead and follow me over on Instagram at Suddenly Spiritual. And I'd also love it if you sent me a message and just said, "Hi, this is how I found you. This is the episode I was listening to," or whatever you want to say. You don't have to say that. But I would love to connect with you and to chat with you and just hear how things are going for you. And if there's any way that I can serve you better, or any topics that you want to hear about here on the podcast or in those future little workshops I'm going to be doing over on the Instagram account. So now that that is all out of the way, let's get into our topic today. And today we are talking about feeling overwhelmed. And the reason this topic came up is because, hello, I often feel overwhelmed. And so recently I was meditating and journaling and working with spirit, trying to overcome these feelings of being overwhelmed. I felt like, and I've felt this way so often, just like there's so much for me to do and not nearly enough time to get it done. I have been feeling like I'm pulled in a million directions, and it made me feel really overwhelmed. And it really led to a lot of confusion. Like, I didn't know what to do next. And because I felt like I had so many things to do and I didn't know the right thing to do next, I found myself doing nothing and feeling really stagnant. I hate that feeling of doing nothing. I was just stuck deep in this overwhelm that really paralyzed me. And I felt like I couldn't move in any direction. All I wanted to do was take a nap and do nothing because all of the different tasks in my life, the different obligations that I had, the different, we're all such multifaceted people. And so I have obligations to my family, to my home, to this podcast, to everything that I have going on in my life. And it just felt like too much. And I know that I am not alone and sometimes getting deep in this feeling of everything is too much. There's too much outside of me that needs my attention, and there's not enough of me, there's not enough time. Just that deep sense of overwhelm. And as I was working with spirit and trying to better understand, like, how do I get through this feeling? I don't know what to do. I'm so confused. I had this incredible message channel through me that really provided a framework for how to work through overwhelm and move forward. And I've been applying that framework in my life, and it's been amazing. It's been so incredible. It's given me a lot of clarity, and I found myself able to move forward out of this overwhelm and really like how I see it is me walking forward and all of these things that are overwhelming me just falling off of me and landing behind me on my path. And I am moving forward with so much more lightness and freedom. That heaviness of all of those things I feel like I have to do all the time, that is falling away. And it's incredible. It's allowed me to start living more present, more in the moment, feel more alive, like I'm actually able to be and experience rather than just spend all my time doing all of these tasks. It's been really amazing. And so I want to share this framework with you because I know that it can have this same impact on you that it has really had on me. And my intention for this episode is to teach you this method of overcoming overwhelm. And this method really focuses on decision making from a soul centered place. Like I said, this method came to me directly from spirit in my own journaling and in my own channeling as I was dealing with feeling incredibly overwhelmed. This episode is going to be a little different than others I've done because as I was doing that channeling and journaling, I was using my oracle cards to really have a conversation with spirit. And the oracle cards that I pulled, that's what really provided the steps, the 3 steps to overcoming overwhelm and the framework for what spirit was teaching me. And so the podcast episode today is going to be led by these oracle cards. Each of the 3 steps, there's a specific card that coordinates with it and provides a really deep message for how to work through this part of the framework for overcoming overwhelm and stepping into the incredible joy and freedom and lightness of not having those heavy obligations on you all the time. I'm going to walk you through how to go from feeling overwhelmed, like I was describing, like there's just so much around you to do and not enough of you. We're going to go from that feeling and we're going to move you into a more soul centered place. We're going to go inward and figure out what it is you actually want to do, you actually need to do. And then we're going to move from that soul centered place. We're going to stick with that and move you into joy, into experience, into being alive and experiencing this life rather than just doing all the things and never getting to actually live. And gosh, that is how I have felt for so much of my life. And I really think that you can probably relate to that contrast of wanting to be alive, but feeling like there's so much to do, there's not even time to just live. And so we're going to move out of this overwhelm and into aliveness, into experience, into enjoying and embracing this incredible life that we have. The three parts that we're going to move through. The first step is acceptance. The next step is intentional movement. And the third step is that joy that we're talking about, that freedom. So let's go ahead and move right into that first step of the framework. So as I was working through these feelings of overwhelm within me, having my discussion with spirit, the first card that I pulled is called Wise One. And the message on the card, what it says on the card, is grow within your current situation. And this card, this message was really directing me to accept my current situation. It was telling me that I need to grow within my current situation. And part of that growing within your current situation is accepting your current situation. And so the guidance that came through was this acceptance. This is where you are. This is what is around you. And you cannot move forward or understand your situation better until you accept it, until you stop struggling against what is. You have to release that struggle and accept and objectively look at your situation. So, with this acceptance, how you move into this acceptance is surveying your current situation. Look at all that's overwhelming you and take it all in. See it all separately. I don't mean like I didn't feel like I needed to list out every single task that I felt like I needed to do, every obligation I had, everything that was stressing me out. No, what I mean is look at kind of the whole picture. Like, what are these different categories of things that are stressing you out? And can you kind of separate everything? For me, when I'm overwhelmed, everything feels mishmashed together into this giant stress ball that's like sitting on my head. And instead, what we can do is look at our situation and sort of separate out all of these different obligations, all of these different ways that we're being pulled, and pull them apart, the different ways your emotions are being pulled, the different things that you feel are required of you. Just take a step back and observe that. And now the card is also directing us to understand that we will need to adjust and change within this current situation or within your current goal, whatever you're working towards, in order to step out of the feeling of overwhelm. So we need to accept that this is the situation that we're in, and we will need to adjust within it in order to move forward. We need to see what is in front of us and then make adjustments in order to move forward. Now, another part of this card is really about trusting your inner wisdom. The card is called Wise One, and it's trusting your inner wisdom, your guidance, your knowing that you have within you. This card is a reminder that you have wisdom within you and you can trust yourself. So many times when we're feeling overwhelmed, it's because we're looking outward for someone else to tell us the next right thing to do. But this card is reminding you that you have wisdom within you, and it's guiding you to trust your own intuition, your own knowing. You can choose the next right thing out of those multitude of options that are in front of you by just trusting yourself and trusting your knowledge. This card is also guiding you to continue forward. Part of this message, like we talked about, is growing within your current situation. So the card isn't saying throw everything away and give up. The card is saying continue forward. You don't need to give up. You can move forward. But part of that moving forward is accepting what is around you and going inward to understand and accept your knowledge that you have and your ability to choose the next right thing. It's telling you to move forward and grow, but it's encouraging you to move forward with thought. Thoughtfully move forward. When we're in overwhelm, our actions are often dictated by a sense of panic, right? You're panicking. You're moving from one thing to the next so rapidly because it feels like there's so much to do and you just have to go, 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 go. The card is saying no. Slow down. Go inward for wisdom and then move forward with intention. It's saying slow down, see the situation, listen to your wisdom, and then move forward with intention. And it's really encouraging you to use this experience as a gift of opportunity, a gift of growth. How can you look at this situation, the whole situation, as an opportunity to grow and to learn and to really expand yourself? See if you can step back and see the situation in that light. Now, that's our first step. Our first step is acceptance, trusting our inner guidance, and being intentional about how we're moving. Intentional, not panicky. We're going to try and slow down and release that panic and move with intention. The second step in this framework is intentional movement. So that card, the wise one, is leading us into this second card, the second step, which is moving with intention. Now, the card that I pulled that led to this, the card is called Traveler, and the message on the card is move in a new direction. So Spirit is guiding us to first accept our situation and grow within that situation. And from that growth, we are going to move forward, but we're going to move forward in a new way. We're not going to move forward with that panic. We're going to move forward in a new way. So now that you've slowed down and reconnected with your knowing, it's time to move forward. But this time, we're going to move forward from our soul, from our values, and from our own personal desires. We're going to move forward with intention this time. When we're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, it's so often that feeling is a result of focusing outward instead of focusing inward. A lot of times it is a result of losing connection with our core values and with our soul desires. When we're moving in panic, when we're moving in this overwhelm and this desperation to get things done, it's all task oriented, it's all doing. But what we're being called to do is take a break, take a pause, and instead of just doing, reconnect with our soul, with our core values, and start making decisions from that place. Start making movements from that place. The card, the Traveler card, is encouraging you to get back in connection with your core values and with your soul. You need to start thinking, what do I actually want to do? What is the life I'm trying to create? What are my values? And use those things, your values, your desires, your actual goals. Use those things to guide your decisions and your actions. So many times when we're in overwhelm and we're just doing, we're doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. And we're often acting without thought. But what we're being called to do, what Spirit is calling us to do in order to release this overwhelm, is instead of focusing on all of these obligations, all of these things we think we should do, all of the things we think that other people expect us to do, instead of that, we need to return to understanding ourselves and why we're doing these things. Why are we doing all of these actions? Do these actions align with our core values? Do these decisions we're making, do they align with our goals? Do they align with our soul desires? Is this what we actually want? Spirit's calling us to move back into our soul and move from our soul, make decisions from our soul. This is the new direction that we are being guided to when it comes to overcoming overwhelm. And it's this inward focus on what we actually want and what we actually need as individuals, as the unique soul and unique human that we are. This isn't something that can be dictated to us by an external source. It has got to come from within. And when we realign with our core values and with our soul desires, we can start to see that many of the things that we find overwhelming are not in alignment with who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. Getting back in connection with ourselves, with our values, with our desires really helps us to then look at those tasks and those things that are overwhelming us and see, is this in alignment with who I am, who I want to be, where I'm going in life? And once we're able to see that, we can then start to prioritize the things that are actually in alignment with who we are and where we want to go. And we can start dropping the tasks that are not in alignment with who we are. It's really this focus and intentionality that is being continued from the first card. That's what this message is about. It's an encouragement to travel forward on this path of being led by our internal knowing and our desires. Now, when this message came to me, I was pulling cards and then channeling messages, writing what was coming through. And I want to read to you part of this channeled message that came through with the traveler card, with this second step in our framework, because I just think it is so powerful. It's just a more succinct way of explaining everything that I just explained to you, and I really want to read it to you. So, what channeled through me said, move with purpose, desire, confidence, not with desperation or obligation. Let your brain take a back seat and let your soul lead the way. Let your soul, your interests, your goals, your curiosity choose your next step. Move in the direction of fun, excitement, and purpose. Choose this over obligation and shoulds. You're building a life from the inside out. Disregard social requirements and expectations. Consult your soul first and let those feelings lead the way. You are unique, amazing, incredible. Let your life reflect that. How amazing is that? That is such a flip from how we often live. This message from Spirit is saying, connect with your uniqueness, with the incredible soul that's within you, and make decisions from that place. Make your choices about what actions you're going to take and the life you're going to live from that place, from your soul. And that's how we're going to drop that overwhelm away from us. The overwhelm that we feel and that stress and discontent is from doing actions that are not aligned with our soul and not aligned with who we truly are. So instead of building a life that reflects obligation and reflects societal requirements and expectations, Spirit is guiding us to build a life that reflects that incredible, beautiful soul that you have within you. And in order to do that, we need to spend the time reconnecting with who we truly are and what we truly desire out of this life. And doing that, it just changes the game. Like, overwhelm isn't even an option because we're not living a life of obligation. We're living a life of soul fulfillment. And it's completely different. Overwhelm isn't even an option in that life because we're living from joy and purpose. And gosh, that's just so incredible. So we have our first step. Our first step is acceptance and connecting with our wisdom. Our second step is movement forward, intentional movement that comes from our soul. Now, our third step in overcoming overwhelm is moving into joy. And the card that came through with this third part of the framework The card is called Summer, and the message on the card says, bask in joy and light. And this last step in overcoming overwhelm is about enjoying the free feeling experience that you've created. It's about basking in the joy of being fully yourself and living a life led by your soul. It's recognizing those moments of wholeness that come from allowing yourself to move forward, guided by your internal guidance, and experiencing the freedom you feel when those outside obligations that weren't in alignment with you, when those outside obligations have dropped away. Spirit is reminding us that our life here on earth is not all about hard work and pushing forward. It's also about the slowness of summer, that delicious slowness, the joy of being alive, the lightness of feeling free. It's about finding our way out of overwhelm by trusting ourselves. That's what this step is about. Finding our way out of overwhelm by trusting ourselves and acting on our intuition, following our soul desires, and that will lead us to this beautiful summertime joy that is just so completely all consuming. And the picture that it gives me, it makes me think of a summer afternoon spent outside, playing in water, running, laughing, just doing whatever feels fun and right in that moment without any regard for what time it is, without any regard for tasks that need to be done. There's none of that. It's just being in the moment and enjoying the moment. It is this experience of divine presence, of aliveness. Oh, that's what this card is bringing us to. And it's showing us, it's letting us know that by going deeper into ourselves and living from within, we're moving toward this incredible joy and freedom that summer represents, that summer has to offer. And by taking the initiative to accept our situation, lean into our wisdom, figure out our soul desires and our core values and live from that place, we get to move into summer. We get to move into joy and freedom and relaxation. And I want to read you a couple excerpts from the direct channel that I had come through me regarding this third step of this framework for getting out of overwhelm. This first excerpt reads, feel the sun, the lightness, the joy, the freedom. Know that enjoyment is an important part of your life, of your path. It's not all work. Find the joy, seek the joy, be the joy. Allow it in. When you slow down and release obligation, joy flows into those open spaces freely. It fills you. Oh, and that part of the message is just so amazing. I just really want to highlight it. It's saying that when you slow down, when you release obligation by living from your soul, it creates all this open space. It creates all of these spaces within you where you are holding stress and obligation and holding all of these tasks and these things that weren't in alignment with who you are. When you release those, there is so much space created within you, within your soul, within your life, within your experience. And that open space can be filled with joy. You can fill up all of those feelings of stress and obligation with joy. Once you release them, joy gets to come in, aliveness gets to come in, experience gets to come in. And isn't that what we want? Oh my God, that's what I want. I just want to feel alive. I don't want to feel ruled by a to do list. I want to feel alive. I want to be living. Let me read you the second part, the second excerpt from the channeled message now. It says, follow the joy in all areas of your life. Follow the joy. You are meant for ease more than stress, love more than fear, wholeness more than emptiness. You are the universe, vast, unending, pure. You are everything. Feel it and allow that feeling to overcome you. All of the beauty and knowledge of the universe. That's what you bring to every moment of this human life. Fill yourself up, and others will feel that fullness, that joy, that completion. Allow yourself to be complete. No more being shy and humble. Be full, be complete, accept all that you are. How beautiful is that? That's so beautiful. Spirit's really saying, not only do you get to fill all this open space in your life with joy, but you get to really experience the fullness of who you are. And when you experience the fullness, the wholeness, the completeness of who you are, you get to bring that into the world in every moment. Instead of coming to every moment with stress and obligation and worry, you get to come with completeness, with wholeness, with your soul. And people can feel that. It's saying you don't need to be humble. You don't need to take a step back. You don't need to be small. We're done with that. We're done being small. Instead, we are going to come back to our soul, to trusting ourselves, and to living from this soul place. We're going to be huge. We're going to come in with this huge energy, and it's beautiful, and people will feel that. And it's going to feel incredible to you and to them. And when you are living from your soul, when you're being complete, when you're allowing that completion, there is no overwhelm. You're just in the moment. You're present. It's joy and it's experience. And it's the beauty of being able to actually live this human life, actually experience what's in front of you. What Spirit's really showing me is like when you're in the moment, you get to see the beauty of the world. Like you get to experience nature, you get to experience relationships with other people, you get to be in that moment and really feel it. And you can't do that when you're being small, when you're overwhelmed, when you're dictating all of your feelings and decisions to people around you and allowing society and those around you to really tell you how to act and how to feel. But when you take your power back inward into you and make decisions from your soul, that's when you get to experience the magic and the beauty of the world. And that's when you get to see all of the incredibleness that's within you. I mean, this message is saying all of the beauty and all of the knowledge of the universe is within you. And that's what we're being led to experience. How incredible. How incredible. So I want to leave you with a summary of what we've talked about and some actual steps that you can take when you're feeling overwhelmed. So the first step of this framework was acceptance. And to move into acceptance, we need to assess and understand the situation. So we need to look at our whole situation and accept what is in front of us. Accept the fact that maybe we've taken on a little too much. We need to see what is in front of us instead of just running from task to task to task so fast. We need to stop, slow down, and see the whole situation. We need to recognize where we have been looking outward for direction. Recognize where we are taking on tasks and obligation from an outward external perspective and see that. We need to see that so that we can understand where we are out of alignment. In this step of acceptance, we also need to make a commitment to continuing forward on this path and allowing ourselves to grow within this experience of feeling overwhelmed, because this is an opportunity for us to learn a new way to exist and learn a new way to move forward in the world. Let's be real. This isn't going to be the last time that I feel overwhelmed, and it's not going to be the last time that you feel overwhelmed. So use this experience as an opportunity to learn how to move through the feelings of overwhelm with more ease and more quickly in the future. In this step of acceptance, we are also making a commitment to start looking inward for direction rather than relying on everything outside of us to dictate what we do, what we think, how we feel. We are pulling our power back into us and accepting our own wisdom as a way to move forward. Now, in our second step of this framework, this second step is movement, intentional movement. And what we need to do in this step is reflect on our core values, reflect on our soul desires. And if you have not connected or even really thought about what your values are or what your desires are, this is going to take some time. What I recommend you do is that you just start writing. That has been the best way for me to connect with my values and with my desires, with the reality of what I actually want out of this life, the reality of what I want to feel, what I want to do, what I want to experience. I recommend you just take out a journal and you start writing. What are my core values? And just write what comes through. What are my soul desires? Just write what comes through. What do you desire at a soul level? Just let it all come out, and then you can read through, you can narrow things down, you can assess, you can think about it, but it is going to take some thought. It is going to take some time to identify these things within yourself and start reconnecting with your true self, with your soul. Once you have defined what these values are, what these desires are, you need to write them out. Make a little list, put them somewhere that you can see it, maybe a little post-it note. You can put a note on your phone, like a little note document on your phone. You can post it wherever you are going to see these values, because I can tell you that even though you've spent all this time defining it in your journal, later on, when you feel overwhelmed, you're going to forget. And what we want to do is recenter ourselves around these values, around these desires. And this is something that you will need to do multiple times. It will happen that you will fall out of alignment with these desires and with these values. And that's okay. That's okay. We are learning and growing within this situation. And so we're going to keep coming back and recentering ourselves on these values and these desires. And when you define these and you focus on these, now you need to use them as your guideposts for making decisions and taking actions. In this movement step, we are moving forward with our values and our true desires at the center of our decisions. Now, the very last step of this framework, the third part of this framework, is joy. And in this third step, we are taking the time to pause and experience joy, taking time for presence. Spirit is encouraging us. Spirit's saying, don't rush forward to the next thing. Stop. Enjoy the freedom and the space that you've created by choosing to act and live from your true soul desires and values. You're being encouraged to recognize the space that this clears up, the confusion and overwhelm that has been dissolved. It's been dissolved into openness, it's been dissolved into space. See that and let that space be filled with joy and aliveness. Do not let that space be filled up with more obligations, with new obligations, because that is just going to loop you right back into overwhelm. Spirit is saying, commit to allowing yourself to experience joy. Allow that space in your life to be filled with joy, filled with experience. Spirit's saying that joy is the reward of a soul-led life. It's your reward for following your soul and your desires. And it is something that you wholeheartedly deserve. You deserve that joy. Let yourself experience it. So, my friend, that is the powerful message that was channeled through me regarding overwhelm. And it's something that I have been applying to my life. And it's felt incredible. It's felt like freedom. I would really encourage you to start applying this to your life as well when you fall into those feelings of overwhelm. Spirit's really encouraging us to just trust ourselves, to live from our soul. And when we do that, overwhelm isn't even an option. It's not even something that's going to cross our minds because we are in alignment with who we truly are. Feeling overwhelmed is totally normal, and it's something that I've often found myself falling into, but it is something that we can overcome by centering ourselves onto our soul, going into our hearts, and trusting our vast internal wisdom that we can step out of that feeling of overwhelm and confusion and start taking deliberate and intentional actions forward. Through this whole message, Spirit is encouraging you to feel empowered to trust yourself. Trust yourself, your soul, your unique soul, your unique experience. Trust that and trust yourself to make decisions from there. And know that by doing this, everything else will fall into place. My dear friend, I really hope that this episode has been helpful to you. I hope that it has spoken to your heart. And I really hope that you will take this framework and apply it to your life. If you have questions, if you want to chat about what came through, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Suddenly Spiritual, and I would love to chat more about this. Thanks so much for tuning in, for listening today, for making it all the way to the end. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.